and welcome to A Piece of String, the show that brings together comedians and scientific minds to ask and maybe answer the biggest of all questions ever. I'm Matthew Shrimman, I'm a chemist and some might say a biophysicist. And with me today are Josie Peters, an astrophysicist.
Hello.
Sophie Ward, a biomedic and a neuroscience enthusiast.
Hello.
And special guest, Paul Stubley, a laser physicist.
Hello.
Three of us, and three of us only, will ask a question to which one of us secretly knows the answer. Points will be allocated on a tyrant arbitrary basis by our producer, Sam Lee. And the winner will get this pack of mini rolls, which is only 40% depleted. Sophie, you got a question for us?
So I've got a question, but it's a question from someone else. And it's actually a question from one of my mates, my friend Knowing Better on YouTube. If he's listening, hello.
What's his real name?
I can't say his real name. He told me in confidence. KB. KB's his real name. And KB wants to know, how would life adapt if surface gravity was as variable as the weather? Which I think is such an ace question. Like, just go check the gravity forecast. Like, you know.
Wow. And it would be like different gravity in your house each day as well. So you would kind of wake up and be like, oh no, I'm on the ceiling again.
Yeah, because I guess...
Wait, you think it'd go into anti-gravity?
Well, or just very low
get
gravity.
Anti-weather, don't you?
Yeah.
Is anti-gravity just a lack of gravity?
Oh, well, put the kettle on. Your anti-gravity is just coming over for tea.
Oh, there she is.
Oh dear.
No, to be on the ceiling, you'd have to have anti-gravity, right?
You just have to have less gravity than there is. Oh no, because in the house,
Yeah.
your house would be floating as well.
Because the reason why we are on the ground is
Ooh.
because we sink in air. Because air is still like heavy, isn't it? All above us, but we're heavier, so we just sink in it down to the bottom.
So we'd need to...
Sorry, dense.
Oh, yeah, we have more
bolt our
mass, so the gravity pulls us down.
So we need to bolt our houses down a bit and put a net around the atmosphere.
So we've got netting, we've got houses with bolts on, because you'd need you need as well though, like, because you know how like you've got like sunglasses for if it's sunny, an umbrella, a brolly for if it's raining. Then like
You have a good net.
yeah, you do
Exactly.
exactly.
Keep your atmosphere.
Keep your atmosphere in.
You
I'm glad we're taking
What
this
about
very
some-
seriously.
You need for
The atmosphere is just made of big fish.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, as if a net will keep the atmosphere.
At least it would keep the fish in if they started
It would
floating
keep
around.
fish.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is
true.
worth it.
Wow.
Oh my god, yeah, the sea.
There is that place
So
where it
cool.
rains fish, isn't there?
Yeah.
Just on the other side of the Andes.
Is that when there's like a water tap?
You get like very, very high winds that blow kind of surface water from the Pacific Ocean across the Andes, and then they like land on this plain on the other side of the Andes. People are like, why are there these fish falling from the sky? And back in the day when people had other explanations for these things, they just thought that fish was one of the weathers.
It's raining fish.
Hallelujah, it's raining fish.
Carry on.
What a tasty dish.
Salty tuna, some with fins. Fish are raining down on
me.
me. That is such a banger. No one even asked. Paul.
And if you watched
You know
the,
it's a
have you
banger.
have you watched the music video for it recently?
Oh, it's so
the music
good.
video is outstanding.
That is the ultimate banging tune.
After you've listened to this episode,
Tuna.
watch it.
Here's another thing.
Yes.
It's apparently good luck if it rains on your wedding day. So what type of gravity
Oh, they just
would be
made
good
that up.
luck on your wedding day? Like, would you wake up like, I'm getting married, and be like, oh, gravity's a bit intense today?
No, slightly
good
less
luck.
than normal gravity, so the dress was particularly billowing. And the confetti would like
And then
float down
You
in a sort of
literally feel like you're
yeah.
floating with love
Yeah.
down the aisle. Oh.
But then actually that makes me think that, because that would make the wedding look nicer. But the reason people say that rain is good luck is to make people feel better about the fact
Exactly,
it rains
yeah,
on the wedding day.
that's
So
just-
I think heavy gravity,
I love rain.
raining and heavy gravity
Yeah,
on
such
your
that the
wedding
cake
day.
falls over and
Exactly.
Cake is just crushed
Yeah.
into a disc.
throwing the bouquet over your shoulder and it just immediately plummets to the ground.
Everyone at the wedding is 3 feet shorter than they usually are.
It's amazing. The first dance is ruined because you have to just slug along the floor.
Confetti would be dangerous, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Confetti would be brutal, wouldn't it? Oh my days.
I was thinking about how how some people live in like a really rainy spot. Would there be some people who just live in a really, really gravity-ish spot, and therefore they'd be super strong?
Some
Is that
people
what-
already do.
Oh, yeah.
If you live next to a particularly big mountain, gravity doesn't point directly downwards for you. It points slightly to the side.
You got a little answer for us there, Paul?
Yeah, it's not related to that though.
Wait, what does that? What
Bring
does
it
that
all
mean?
out.
Gravity
Yeah.
points to the side.
So gravity is created by the amount of mass, under you, usually in the center of the planet. But if you live next to a big enough mountain, there's a big enough proportion of the planet that's to your side rather than under your feet, such that gravity doesn't actually point directly downwards. It points slightly to the side towards the mountain.
Wow, that's amazing. But that's one of those things that it makes sense. But you just wouldn't think it, would you? Like,
It'll only be a tiny factor. So I was trying to be optimistic about this.
Joe, you have a full answer.
Oh yeah,
Oh, sick.
quite.
Okay.
So I was trying to be optimistic about this and so, sort of think about some of the suggestions that we've made, like how could we actually adapt? And gravity gets miles heavier each day. You'd be pushed down to the ground. Could you cope with this? Essentially, the outlook's pretty bleak. So in terms of like how we live today, essentially all buildings would just collapse immediately if we had variable gravity, because engineering is a really fine balance. They have quite relatively big, safety ranges, but compared to like the gravity doubling or tripling in one go, all bridges, buildings, everything would just collapse. One thing that I found quite interesting was that mines wouldn't be stable, so underground.
Not the mines.
Exactly. Well, exactly. So they'd immediately close. And it would mean that the industrial revolution would never happen. We'd never had coal or steel or anything like that. The buildings as we know them today wouldn't be stable. So we'd essentially be sort of thrust back to the pre-building age. We'd be living as nomads or what have you. But more than that, so everything that has evolved on Earth has done so in constant gravity. So if it was variable, things like plants wouldn't be able to get all the nutrients they need up to the top. Sometimes they'd pump way too hard. Sometimes it would be too soft and they'd never get there. So plants would die off, which essentially means all.
I like
life.
plants.
I know, right?
Yeah, me too.
All of our physiology, all of human physiology, is based on gravity being a really fine balance.
This is
So
not looking good.
no, so the heart wouldn't have enough energy to pump the blood back from your feet up to your heart.
So we'd have to become kind of, if we wanted to survive, we'd have to become like bionic essentially. We'd have to be robots.
Now that is an idea.
It is.
Ooh.
There we are.
Could you build weird things as well? Like instead of traditional engineering, could you have like an inflatable house?
Yeah, and then pump more air into it the days that it's. I like this.
Well, I mean, in the sense that if it collapsed, I mean, worst case scenario, you'd have like an inflatable house on you, not bricks.
One thing that you could do is if you had a airtight house, then the air pressure wouldn't increase in the house. So the rest of the atmosphere would get pulled towards the earth, but the air pressure in your house could remain the same. So maybe it would be possible.
But would you not end up with more air at the bottom of the house and less at the top?
Yes.
So you'd
Yeah,
have to
no,
lie
have to have-
down.
Yeah, you would.
You have to get yourself in the middle of the house.
Just like stop, drop and roll, but for breathing.
One thing that I did read that was quite interesting is with the air pressure increasing as gravity did, our bodies would actually find equilibrium with the air. That wouldn't be an issue. So you would think that we'd get crushed inwards, but the air in your lungs would also be higher density. And therefore you'd actually find equilibrium. In fact, it might be good because there'd be a lot more oxygen in your lungs at any given time. And it might actually be the low density air when the gravity depleted that would be the issue. A final thought is that if it did get particularly heavy gravity one day and everything else stayed fine, the buildings are inflatable buildings and are net for the atmosphere, fish and
Keep it in.
all the rest
Look,
of it.
I've got
Bionic
good
hearts
solutions.
One way to get around it would just be to chill out horizontally in bed for a while and reduce the stress on your body, which is basically what you do if it's particularly bad weather.
Just get yourself under a blanket and play some games.
Exactly.
Are there any planets out there that do have like pretty variable gravity themselves? Because I guess,
there probably must be, right? If you had a couple of planets that were maybe close together or really close to their star.
Oh, yeah.
If you maybe had something that was pulling more on the center of the planet, you might have something varying that way, I suppose.
Like
I imagine there
something
must
with
be a
very,
system.
Like, extreme oval, like an oval orbit, if it orbits at one point really close to its star and another point really far away.
Yeah, I guess if you had a multiple sort of body object system, then maybe you would have things pulling on each other in different frequencies. And, so for example, you might have something where something passes quite close to you and maybe it's quite big, maybe it pulls you, maybe your center of gravity moves a bit, and you maybe feel less gravity because you've got a pull of a larger planet near you, perhaps.
Yeah,
that must exist.
When you got the moon above you, you're slightly lighter.
Yeah.
You would be.
Yeah.
I think anything that had gravity that was like a planet that had gravity that was changing inside itself would be going under such like geothermal turmoil of the inside of the planet being pulled from one side to the next that it would be really unstable. There'd be loads of volcanic activity, there'd be loads of earthquakes because the planet was like pulling itself in really unusual ways. And the sort of balance of gravity such that the planet is stable would kind of not be too optimistic for growing complex life.
Sounds ideal.
Yeah.
Sounds ideal. Let's get sorry, Josie.
No, I was just going to say that Europa around Jupiter and Enceladus, which are around Saturn, which are both moons, which we know have got some geothermal activity, which basically means like volcanoes and geysers and stuff shooting out. But that sort of warms up the inside of those moons. So actually, because of that tugging on by something much larger like Saturn or Jupiter, could potentially be the reason for life. If we ever find it on there, could be.
Yeah. So actually, rather than life adapting to changing gravity might generate life.
Who'd have thunk it?
Okay, I've got a question. In places in the world, like Southern Europe, it could be one of those places, people drop spoons, handle down, into bottles of champagne to keep them bubbly for longer. Why?
Is it to help keep the fizz? I presume that's the...
Fizzy, fizzy, fizzy.
Yeah, mate, I think...
Also, drop sounds like more of a feat. Like, usually I'd be like, yes, I'll just place this spoon. But
Yeah.
no. Hang on, Steve,
got to
hold the
drop it.
bottle. I'm just going to drop the spoon in. Oh, I hope
Climbing up
it
the
stays
stairs.
fizzy.
The higher the better.
And we
The
go
mezzanine.
downstairs, drop the spoon, and I feel like if there was a science to explain it, it'd be called physics.
Hey!
Wait, I don't get it.
Because fizz is like,
Fizzy,
the drink is fizzy.
Oh, because it's
Physics
fizzy.
is
Yeah, got it right.
Oh, God.
We've got. Do any of you do that? Drop a silver spoon in or a spoon? Or is
No,
it specified?
but I'm related to people who do.
So, have you guys ever played this
Very
game?
nice. You know what? No one saw like Paul's eyes at that point, which were very intense.
We've got classy. If you do, there's a classy bunch. I just finish it.
What about the second bottle?
Obviously, if you open a bottle, you got to finish it. You start a job, end it.
Have you guys ever played that game where you tie a string around your waist and then you tie a knife onto a string that then dangles from that string, such that it's kind of like a tail, but the knife is hanging around knee height but behind you, and then you have to kind of squat over a bottle of champagne and try and lower the knife in.
Sorry, is this...
No one has ever played that
Yeah.
game.
Is this
Such a good game.
It sounds like some mixture of like Victorian parlour game crossed with like Tim Burton. Like, what is that?
That game is an absolute zinger.
Wasn't that from Saw 3?
That is also, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Sorry, if you have a bottle of champagne, who like fannies around doing that? Just save it for a special occasion and then drink it. Like,
Yeah, I think you might have too much champagne on your hands.
Yeah, exactly, Matt. Matt's just got a copious amount of champagne. He's like, heavens, I need to think of another fun game so I can make drinking this champagne more ruddy interesting. Sorry, Matt.
Nothing to say to that.
How big's
Easy
the,
for champagne.
how
boy
big's
over
the knife
there.
in this game of yours?
Why have you just
Kitchen
suddenly turned me into champagne boy? I never buy champaign.
What?
Never buy
Clearly,
it.
you play this
Never buy
special
it.
Doesn't need
champagne
to.
game.
He's got
No,
so
you don't.
much in
You
the
just
cellar,
play.
he
You
doesn't
just
need
play
to
with
buy
like
anymore.
you play with any bottle, just like a glass bottle. You just lower the
A glass bottle that's got a cork.
there is
Wouldn't work with like.
There's a friend of mine whose dad is called Wolf, and he has the ability to take champagne cork, because they're obviously like trapezium shape, so when they come out they're like almost impossible to put in.
Obviously, they're trapezium shapes.
Um,
I've not seen many, Matt.
They've got like this wedge shape, so they're like narrow at the top and then wide at the bottom, and he can squeeze them together with his hands and shove them back into the bottle, which is
I mean, of course,
very-
they can.
Also,
I feel like we're
also
getting-
useless.
I
Cool
feel like
party
we're getting
trick,
quite a
but
big insight into Matt's private life with like champagne games and a man called Wolf.
Do you know if you leave them long enough, they just turn into cylinders. They don't keep their shape. I have a couple hanging.
Wolves?
Yeah, wolves. They just turn into completely homogeneous cylinders.
Very useful for physics.
Yeah.
Why have I been turned into a champagne character? What is this about? This is so anathema to who I am.
To be fair, if we have had a bottle of champagne or prosecco, which is definitely more common in my
Other fizzy wines are available.
Prosecco is more delicious. I prefer it.
I think I just had more of it, so it's more like £6 bottle of prosecco from Asda's, so sound. But like, yeah, I will admit I've actually done the spoon thing. If we've had as a family, we've had a celebration and then we've wanted to save a bit for another celebration the next day.
Like Christmas.
Yeah.
You drink a lot of fizz around Christmas.
Exactly.
Breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Speaking of the spoon thing, has anyone got any science?
I actually have some answers for this, but Paul, what were you going to say?
I was going to...
Have you researched
No.
as well?
I was just wondering if you could put the fizz back in if you'd lost it. And I was like, could you put flat champagne into a soda stream and make it bubbly again? Anyway, it turns out soda stream, which is a carbonation machine, for those who don't know, makes champagne or wine cordial with which you can make your own fizzy wine. And it ends up at about 10%, depending on how much you put in, and tasting like a sort of acceptable sparkling wine.
Cool.
Wow.
Sounds all right.
That's amazing. So what I found upon Googling this was that I was looking for some actual studies that had actually investigated this, and I came across this bloke called Richard Zare, who went to Stanford, which is quite a good uni, I believe, so I kind of trust him. But he he wanted to research if putting a spoon in fizz helps it keep its fizz. But he obviously wasn't going to get people to give him money to study this. We just did it in his own time. He got 8 amateur taste testers who were essentially just his mates. And it kind of all just sounds like a bit of an excuse to get a bit wavy. So he got a few different bottles of the same type of champagne, just doing all right for himself. And he got his taste testers to taste them so they'd been opened in different ways. So one had just been opened, one had been opened and then left in the fridge for 26 hours with no spoon or cork. One was recorked, and then some were left with different types of spoons, like silver or stainless steel. Basically what he found was that recorking made the fizz worse. So if you put a cork back in it, it makes the fizz worse. Yeah, I don't know. The putting spoons in didn't make a difference, but actually the best thing to do is just to keep it in the fridge, just keep it cold, because the fizzy bubbles are carbon dioxide. And basically carbon dioxide is more soluble, more of it can stay in the liquid when the liquid's cold. As soon as it heats up, that's when the carbon dioxide bubbles start going out and it loses its fizz. So actually the best result, to get the best results with your champagne or your Prosecco or whatever, is just to keep it super cold. An issue with this study, other than the fact it was super casual, was that as it went along, the people doing the study were getting drunk. So their view on what tasted good and what tasted bad was obviously getting a bit skew with depending on how many glasses they'd had. But to summarise, the findings of the study were actually repeated by the Centre Interprofessionnel des Vins de Champagne in France, who basically were spoons don't make a difference. And the French call the loss of gas avantage. So spoons make no difference on avantage.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Just keep it in the fridge.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the thing that would get all the bubbles out would be putting in sand or sugar or something like that.
Yeah, but you have enough champagne to be willing to put sand in it, Matt, whereas...
Of course I do. Yeah. And now for the mystery midsection. Just before we started the show, I gave everyone the following question.
What is Hufu?
I then asked everyone to write down a fictional but reasonable sounding answer. Reasonable. I will now read out all of those answers with the real answer mixed in. Everyone will then get the chance to decide which answer they think is correct. Hufu is Wi-Fi, but for people who are team players and avoid the letter I. Hufu is a human-flavoured tofu. Hufu is a big, fluffy mountainside mammal. Hufu is a single armadillo birth. Hufu is a tropical fruit akin to a mango, but with the flesh on the outside and the hard skin layer in the centre.
Ew. Ew.
Pretty gross.
Ew, gross. Maybe that's why we haven't heard of it before.
Oh, they're quite intriguing. Like I would, if I knew that someone was selling that, I would want to buy one, at least, of a fleshy fruit.
Yeah, goes well with human flavoured tofu, I hear.
While you're surfing your Hufu Wi-Fi.
Well, why was that developed? Do you reckon it was for like cannibals who sort of had a moral dilemma, but still had the taste?
Ideal.
Yeah, perfect.
Then what? How would they have? Like some major human flesh eating would have gone on while they were in the flavour development department, you know.
But it was for the long game, you know. They knew that sacrifices had to be made then to develop it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
For the long term
that is
good.
true. Foo.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, Josie?
So wait, so hang on. So sorry, was number 4 an armadillo birth?
Number 4 was...
Yeah, it was a single arm. So like you'd see an armadillo and be like, oh, it's just gone down, done a hoofoo.
All right, I believe that. When it's said like that, I'll believe it.
I'm going to go for the mountain mammal that
Oh,
is
you've gone
fluffy.
straight in.
Yeah,
Okay.
why not?
I don't know what to do, Foo.
What do you think, Paul?
I was going to go for number 2, Foo.
The human flavoured tofu.
Because I just think so much like research went into it that it deserves to be acknowledged.
I'm gonna go for you know what? The tropical fruit. I'm gonna do it. I'm really scared it's Matt's. I'm so scared it's Matt's.
I bet it's Matt's. It is. He's
Is it
look how
yours?
sneaky he is again.
No, mine this week was the single armadillo birth.
Ah!
Thank heavens.
Wait, so one of us was right?
One of you was right.
None of you, Foo.
I
We're
think
true,
the person
Foo.
who's right actually already knows that they were right.
What?
No.
No.
You know so much about
You're
human
joking.
tofu. It made me
Tofu
confused.
is human flavour.
Oh, come
So
on.
That's horrible.
Marketed as the great taste of human flesh without the guilt.
What?
the jack?
Who sells that? Where do you?
Oh my
I mean, I don't
God.
want to know where you buy this because I don't. What?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you about some things quickly. So, like Impossible Burger and Beyond Burger, these meat substitute burgers,
Yeah.
really like they are actually really delicious, and that's really cool. But I've often wondered, are the researchers eating meat to compare? Because surely those people are like vegetarians, and that's part of the reason that they're doing it. I don't know. Anyway, the other thing no, but what I should say is that Hufu was never a real thing. So it was just a fictional thing.
Okay.
Oh.
In what fiction?
It was just an internet.
Oh,
Sounds
a
like
meme.
right, okay. Sounds like me going, "Oh, Matt, what's Bonzerotti?" And then and you guessing and me being like, "Oh,
Yeah,
it's
hang
actually a
on.
word I made up."
All
this
right,
a
well,
real
it wasn't.
question?
It wasn't as sciencey this week as it normally is, but there's more stories.
I just
So
like to find places to criticize you.
there's a similar thing called manbeef.com,
Which was a very different site.
a website that had 500,000
Grindr's
hits.
competitor, isn't it? that?
It had 500,000 hits a day for human flesh-based recipes. To such a great, it was so popular that the FDA in the USA had to investigate it, but found no sign of wrongdoing because they weren't actually selling any human flesh-based products.
Were they able to track down the people using the website? Like, this is pretty alarming. That's a lot of people.
Well, I think it was like a meme thing. But anyway, manbeef.com was basically as soon as the domain expired, it was rapidly replaced by hardcore pornography.
Of course.
Thank heavens for that.
Josie,
Yeah.
you chose mine.
Did I?
You chose one another's.
Oh, did I choose yours?
No, I'm the Wi-Fi one.
Oh, wait.
I was the mango.
Oh, yeah. So Paul wins. Congratulations, Paul. Josie, have you got a question for us?
I do indeed. What is the best way to beat jet lag? For all you hardy travellers out there.
Why do you want to beat it? Just go with it. I love it.
Really? What, getting super
You love
tired?
it, yeah.
Love being out of sync with the rest of my fellow people
And your body.
and body. Unable to attend social events or get to work. Love it.
Interesting you should say unable to attend social events.
Why?
Because if you have jet lag, you're more likely to be able to attend evening or
Morning social events.
or early morning
The
breakfast
morning
clubs.
party is my favourite.
Depends on the direction of your jet lag,
Exactly.
right? You might be able to stay up real late. No?
I know very little about jet lag because I first went on a plane when I was like 16, and then I've not really been. I've been to like a couple of like really cool places, but I've never really experienced really bad jet lag. Like, so is it that you just can't sleep when you should be sleeping? Is that essentially it? Who's had like horrendous jet lag? You have,
and you want to go to sleep really early as well because you're so tired and your body has got all the chemicals or whatever it is that build up, telling you like, please let me sleep.
Yeah.
But then you're like, no, I need to try and eat dinner with everyone and try and fit with the circadian rhythm to try and adjust it. So it's battle.
The main thing you get is either you literally can't go to sleep and then you wake up really late, or you just want to go to bed, but then you wake up at really early in the morning and just can't sleep and you're just kind of tossing and turning. Those are your two options. Take your pick.
Okay, well, it's a difficult decision. I think what I would choose, and what I think the answer to this question is, don't go on a plane.
Okay.
Best way to beat jet lag.
Stay away from jets.
Yeah, exactly. Just plain old lag.
That is a good
Sail.
point, because the issue is traveling across time zones more quickly than your body can catch up. So before plane travel, it wouldn't have been an issue, hence the name. Like if you, despite the fact you were going 20 time zones east on a boat, your body would just do it slowly. You'd have all the time in the world to change your rhythms as you went.
Because what is it? I've heard that it takes a day to get back each hour that you've gone wrong whichever way. So like say if you went somewhere and you were 6 hours out of time zone, then it would take you 6 days to fully adjust.
Wow.
To adjust
Really?
completely. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, by the time you've got to sort of like 2 hours, you're probably fine anyway, right? You can do that in your normal day-to-day life. But apparently that's what I've heard.
okay.
It takes you that long to really, so if you were somewhere for 2 weeks, you'd be fine by the second week.
Just in time to come home.
Yeah.
Just in time. Has anyone ever used a jetpack?
Have you?
On a video game, yeah.
Are you suggesting that when you press the button, it takes a little bit of time before it turns on? And you actually thought the question was about that?
Yeah.
Everyone's,
Wait, when you said on a video
Classic problem.
game, were you talking about worms and you were like trying to drop a weapon from above
I didn't
and you
forget about
accidentally
that.
turn the jetpack off?
So
and then
I
you
was a
fall
bit-
inside?
Oh.
Yeah. Josie and I loved worms.
I loved it. I used to play it on my own.
Were you a Ninja
That's
Rope
fine.
Pro?
What, sorry?
Ninja Rope Pro.
Yes.
This could be getting pretty niche.
Basically, only child, had to play games on my own sometimes, and there was one player mode, and I enjoyed it.
come on, guys, we're getting,
But
we're getting into a bit of a wormhole now.
jetpacks.
Very good.
Jet lag is like, how do you beat jet lag? Does anyone know? I mean, I always thought that what you do is you just have one day where you just stay right up and then you just completely reset your life. But I haven't had much experience.
I think you try and get as much natural daylight as you can, and then you adjust. So, like for example,
Suck
when
it
you're
all
on
in.
the plane, take the windows down at the time that you want to adjust to. I've heard people doing the technique of like as soon as you get on the plane, adjust your watch to the new time zone,
Oh, okay.
so that you start doing things by that time, and you can at least eat at those times because that helps your body's rhythms as well. I think.
Yeah, definitely. Eating at the destination time zone, sleeping at the destination time zone.
But then they bring the food on the plane, don't they? I remember when I first went on a long haul and I didn't know you got free food. I was so excited. What was I going to? I was going to America. And they came with food and I was like, oh, I've not got any money. And then they're like, it's part of the flight. I was like 19. I was like, this is great. But they bring it at random times.
Yeah, I had one recently where I was flying to Australia, got off at Dubai, was getting on the flight from Dubai to Australia, fully anticipating dinner and a bottle of wine. Got on the plane and they served breakfast, and I had to make a very snap decision as whether I asked for wine with breakfast or not. I can't remember. I think I probably did. I'd got into my head so much that I wanted it that I eventually just overcame the embarrassment. And
I
was
mean,
like, I'm doing it.
breakfast-
Pretend it's
every-
like Christmas.
Exactly.
Breakfast for every meal of the day is basically it's an important part of living the
Breakfast, brunch, and dinner.
dream. Exactly.
3 breals a day.
3 breals a day. Breals.
So if jet lag's all about flying through time zones more quickly than your body can adjust, how on earth do astronauts do it? Oh, on earth is probably a bad way of explaining it. How do astronauts do it if they're flying around, and they're getting multiple sunrises and sunsets in a given day?
I think they just ignore them. I think on board like the ISS, they just run like on UTC. So that's like the normal British time, but without summertime. And they just go with that the whole time. Then they have lighting on board that comes on at the right times, and it goes dark at other times. They just simulate normal day.
That's
Sorry,
Go on.
someone was going to ask something.
I was just doing a jargon check just in case people didn't know the acronyms. ISS, International Space Station.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's the
UTC,
international-
what's it, Universal Time?
UTC stands for
Coordinated Universal Time, but the letters are in a different order because it's French.
exactly.
Thank you.
Anyway, the thing that I was quite excited about was to say, I got rudely interrupted by all of you in your acronym chat.
Look, we're just trying to explain for everybody else.
It's just that it's surprisingly hard to find where the sun is if you're on a space station. Because, which window do you look out of? When you're on the Earth, you know that it's going to be pretty much up, and you kind of know roughly where it's going to be during the day, and you've got all these shadows as cues as well. But in the space station, you're just
it could be below you.
Yeah, it could be below you, it could be anywhere. So you just have to kind of look around in different rooms until you get a window that you can look through and be like, oh yeah, there's the sun. It's still around.
That reminds me of something else someone was telling me to do, or telling someone to do recently, that was like, oh yeah, next time you're in a plane, look out and try and look up, and it'll freak you out.
Oh, is it darker?
I think so. Someone told me this after my most recent flight, but I'll try it next time.
So there are lots of little clocks running inside your body. And always, that crocodile in Peter Pan that swallowed a clock.
Mm-hmm.
Not like that. You've got biological clocks. And so when you travel, your body's clocks can't adjust immediately. We know that. That's why jet lag happens, because your body is trying to readjust. So you've got a kind of master clock inside your hypothalamus, which is the part of your brain that coordinates a lot of your keeping everything constant. And in that part of your brain, you've got some genes called clock genes that are active. And those are responsible for keeping you on a roughly 24-hour cycle. And you can knock out some of these genes, and you can change them, and you can literally change the behavior of animals. So they've done this with mice and insects and things, and they've shown that their daily cycles, they can change radically. I don't know how good they are at controlling it at the moment. They've just shown that these are definitely genes that control that cycle. And so they're very fixed across basically everything on Earth, because everything is fixed to this 24-hour cycle, or at least most things are. There's some weird things that aren't. Like there's cicadas that somehow stay underground for 13 years. Is it cicadas?
Wait, what's a cicada?
Like the insects that go...
On Animal Crossing, there's a lot.
Is it on Animal Crossing? Oh,
Yeah,
I've not
there's
played
loads of
them.
them on Animal Crossing.
Anyway, so if you... adjusting to eastwards travel is a lot harder, because... So if you're in the UK and you're heading towards Asia, that's a lot harder than going over to the US, because your body prefers to elongate its clock to adjust it rather than contract it. We don't really know why that is, but it's a lot more painful heading east. And another thing that makes it really painful is that it's just totally exhausting. And especially on airplanes, restful sleep is almost impossible on a seat that doesn't recline more than about 40 degrees for most people, which doesn't happen in economy. So, we just never get any sleep. So one of the most, there are a few things that are quite important. One of them is exposure to light at the right times. And so there are apps like this one called Entrain that you can use you tell it, I'm about to go here, and it'll start telling you when you should try and expose yourself to bright light and avoid light as well. Sleeping and eating at the right times are important as well. So when you arrive somewhere, you have to try and match up to the schedule, which is often really hard, because your gut literally has its own kind of clock, its own cycle in effect, and so it expects food at certain times, and it will make you feel really hungry right in the middle of the night, and you have to try and avoid it if you can. And then people have been really obsessed with melatonin at the moment, because melatonin is this chemical that's produced in your brain that one of the things it does is it makes you feel quite sleepy. It's produced when it gets dark. And so people have been taking melatonin just before the nighttime in the place that they arrive at, so they can try and get themselves to sleep then. But at the moment it's being marketed quite ridiculously. So, the doses will be 3 or 5 grams, whereas really most of the science is pointing towards you only need half a gram most. And even then, they're not even completely sure that it's actually that useful. One of the most useful things, which we touched on before, is that it's really, really useful to do this stuff in advance. One of the things your body finds really confusing is when you end up radically out of your time zone. Whereas if you start shifting your time zone closer to the one you're about to travel to, then the adjustment is a lot easier for you to just do and feel natural about it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just literally about hydration. Like just staying really, really hydrated and just being patient. And the thing is, all the things I've said, they can help a little bit, but it's really difficult to get them right. Like it's difficult to eat at the right time. It's difficult to expose yourself to light at the right time. You might accidentally get light exposure. Surprise light. And so it's mainly just about drinking loads of water and just being patient, not expecting your body to just...
Where's the water coming?
water?
Just because water's important.
Air on a commercial plane is a lot drier than air at sea level. So you're artificially in a really dry environment for extended periods of time. And you might not want to drink as much because you might not want to have to get up to go to the loo in the middle of the flight and climb over the person next to you and et cetera, et cetera.
That's why the food tastes so bad, because your mouth's so dry.
Well, actually, that's a lot to do as well with you can't taste it as well because of the lower air pressure.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so salty, because they're trying to give you some flavour, but actually you're not really gobble.
They've also shown that if you put noise-cancelling headphones on, it tastes better.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
So you don't hear the buzz of the
So
plane?
taste isn't only to do with smell, it's also to do with hearing.
Whoa, that's interesting. On a very tangential, I've read that if you, for example, there are lots of different things you can do to improve the quality or the taste of your food, but one of them was if you play classical music, your wine tastes more expensive to your guests.
I wonder if that's sociological, as in people who like classical music must understand wine.
Expensive. I don't know. I always think this whole expensive wine thing is a total sham. I mean, it's been shown time and time again that really cheap wines are voted at like the top of the spectrum by people who are supposed to know what they're talking about.
You've seen there's a test where wine tasters were blindfolded and given white wine, told it was red wine at room temperature, and they've described it with red wine words.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I was just going to finish on a tiny point, which was just to say, just takes patience. You don't expect to be able to do, you can't expect to be able to do something that we haven't evolved to do. Like we can't fly and we can't adapt our time zone rapidly. We would never evolve to do that. No animal before us on the planet has ever really switched its time zone so quickly. Apart from maybe if there's like some bacteria right up in the upper atmosphere and jet streams, I don't know, like some niche things. But as for mammals, don't expect to be able to do the time zone thing. And we have arrived at the end. Points have been allocated by our producer, Sam Lee, according to a system that none of us were aware of until now.
I've been running an intensive jet lag-based experiment, the winner of which I can reveal was Josie this week.
Finally, yes.
Yeah.
Who emerges remarkably fresh-faced after completing currently the world's longest flight between Singapore Changi Airport and Newark Airport in the United States. 18 hours and 30 minutes. How are you feeling?
I may look fresh-faced, but I do not feel it.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah,
At
hiding
least
it well.
you have a face. You be grateful.
Well, yes.
For now, thanks to Josie Peters,
Thank you.
Sophie Ward,
Thank you.
Paul Stubley,
Thank you.
and Matthew Shribman, that's me, and our producer, Sam Lee, and to Unbound for their generosity in hosting and supporting us. You can follow us on social media by searching A Piece of String or String Podcast.
If you would like to follow me and find out more about astronomy and astrophysics, head on down to @JosieAPeters on Twitter and YouTube.
If you want to see videos about trust and cringing and periods and other things that I find interesting, then check out my YouTube channel, Soph's Notes, or tweet me also @Soph's Notes.
And if you'd like to learn more about many and various scientific curiosities from a man in a bath or otherwise located, you can follow me on social media by searching Science in the Bath or Matthew Shribman.
If you've got a quirky question that you'd like a scientific answer for, then reach out to us on any of our social media channels.
Thanks for listening. Please rate and review us on Spotify, iTunes, etc. Makes a really big difference in spreading the word. And we'll be back again in a fortnight. And as usual, let's never speak of any of this ever again.